Shabbat Shalom, welcome. Welcome to Hannah Nisengard and her whole mishpacha that's over here, and also everyone virtually. We so wish that you were with us in person in this very strange time of the pandemic. We try to do the best we can, but we're going to really have a wonderful morning and Shabbat together, and I hope that you'll feel as if you're in our room. For those of you joining us from afar, we do use the Mishkan Tefillah prayer book. This is the Reform prayer book. It is available in PDF form on our website, the Shir Shalom Buffalo website, so feel free to look it up there if you want to follow along, or just really listen. Hannah will be leading the majority of the service that we have today. She'll be reading from the Torah and the Haftorah and offering words, and we're super excited as a community to be able to host her even in this limited fashion. So I'm going to bring Hannah up now to read from us. It'll be on page 288. And whenever you're ready.
May my life be one link in a chain of goodness. As I say the prayers of my ancestors, help me to recall their devotion and faithfulness, their joy and suffering, which are in every word. Holiness is my heritage. May I be worthy of it. May our tradition live in me and pass from me to generations I shall never know. Enriched by the truth that I have found and the good deeds I have done, so may I fulfill my task on earth and receive my blessing. And when the service ends and the prayers have ceased, help me to bring their spirit into the world in which I live. May I love God above all and my neighbor as myself, and be a living witness to the truth that never changes. Moda'ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla, rabba emunatecha.
What you heard Hannah sing right there, the Moda'ani, is saying thank you. Thank you, God, for allowing to be alive. It is the traditional prayer that we say when we first open our eyes, and how wonderful to have Hannah be able to voice that. So as we begin the Bat Mitzvah, a lot of things are going to happen here as she becomes a young adult in our Jewish community. One of the main things that happens is she receives her Talit. Her Talit is her prayer shawl. And her grandfather, Stuart Siskin, is going to be presenting a talis that, it could either be talis or talit, that was one that Hannah picked out. And I'm going to invite Stuart to come over to put that on his granddaughter's shoulders. This is symbolic of becoming an adult. And Hannah will be reciting the blessing, which is on page 289.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chitatif bat tzitzit.
Blessed are you, God. Amen. Blessed are you, God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us and commands us to wear the fringe talis. As this is the very first time, Hannah, that you're wearing this, you get to also offer the Shekianu, a prayer for new things.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu lazman hazeh.
Blessed are you, God, who brings us life, allows us to be present here today, and allows us to arrive at this very special and holy moment. As we proceed in the service, we are going to turn to the Baruch Hu on page 313, the call of community, as it is also known. And now Hannah, as a bat mitzvah, has joined the ranks of our communities and counts in our prayer quorum, or minyan. I invite all those here or in virtually to please rise for the Baruch Hu as Cantor Frank leads us.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam.
continue with the Shema on page 318, and I turn to Hannah to lead us.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Ba'ed.
You may be seated. And we'll continue with the V'ahavta, page 319.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levacha, u'v'chol nafshecha, u'v'chol meotecha, v'hayu ha'revarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinatam levanecha, v'divarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvaktecha v'derech, u'shochbecha, uv'kumeha, u'kshartam le'ot ayadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, u'kshartam al mezuzot beitecha, u'visharecha. Leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzotai, item kedoshim le'elohehem, ani Adonai Elohehem, asher hotzei etem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohehem.
We continue with a prayer that is about crossing the sea on page 322, the Michamocha, and this is about the momentous moments in our life, like Hannah is undertaking today, and this is a celebration of it. Cantor Frank will be leading us.
Kamocha ba'elim Adonai, kamocha netabakotesh, nora tehilot, osefelet, nora tehilot, osefelet, shira chatasha shebecho geolim, eshim chasevatayam, yochad kula, hadu vehimechu vehamaru, Adonai yimrach le'olam va'ed.
You may rise.
So Yisrael, como be'ezrat Yisrael, uvtech ramecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Koleinu, Adonai tzivot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Yisrael.
We continue with our own private prayers through the Amidah, or Tefillah, the standing prayer, starting on page 323, and we'll resume services in just a few minutes on page 337. Whenever you're ready, you may be seated. Hannah will be leading us in Oseh Shalom, a prayer for peace, on page 337.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, uyaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, 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 Yaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
It is now time to turn to our Torah service on page 366. The Torah is really the centerpiece of our community. It sits here in our ark and on the Torah table today. And it is really what Hannah receives on this day. This is wisdom that's passed down all the way back. You remember Moses on Mount Sinai, throughout the generations, all the way down to you, Hannah, today. And we symbolically pass that Torah down through your family. I'm going to ask your whole family to rise right now as we move the Torah, Lidor Vador, from generation to generation. And as they're rising, I'm going to have Mike and Sharon come over and bring the Torah over to Hannah. Cantor will be singing Lidor Vador from generation to generation.
Ledor vador,
Lidor Vador,
ledor vador,
Lidor Vador,
ledor vador nagid God lecha. Ledor vador,
Lidor Vador,
ledor vador,
Lidor Vador,
ledor vador nagid God lecha. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם לעולם ועד. לדור ודור,
Lidor Vador,
לדור ודור,
Lidor Vador,
לדור ודור נכיר גודלך. לדור ודור,
Lidor Vador,
לדור ודור,
Lidor Vador.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך.
So Hannah is now going to be leading us responsibly on page 366. And we'll respond to the first two, and then together on the last one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai Iti, Uneroma Shemo Yachtav.
We now invite Hannah over. You may be seated to the Torah itself. Hannah, why don't you take your yad, which is the pointer there. Why don't you hold that up so people could see that? This is presented to Hannah from our religious school and picked out by our executive director, Joanne Marquesi, for all of her years of service. And it is designed to help her and assist her with the Torah reading. You can stand up on that if Hannah, are you able to sit? So we can see you a little better. And the Torah is very difficult to read. It has no vowels, and it's in a language that Hannah doesn't speak. So she spent many months preparing for this reading and practicing, and now she has a chance to finally read for the first time as a Jewish adult. So we're going to be bringing people up for the blessings, members of the family. And just so the family knows, the blessing is up here, and just make sure the microphone is near at least one of you as we call you up. So for the first Aliyah, and we are reading from Parshat Emor. What is the verse, Harvey, that we're reading from?
Chapter 22, verse 33.
So we're in chapter 22 of Leviticus, verse 33, which is a section of Emor, the Torah portion of this week, that talks about the Jewish holidays. So for the first Aliyah, we are going to be calling up all of her grandparents, Yamdu, so it'll be Gail Siskin, Stuart Siskin, and Elaine Rubenstein. Golda Rachel bat of Be'er Babella, Shimon ben Yoshia, Simcha Begashua, Ve'elaine bat Yosef, Sylvia Lalia, Harishona. Whenever you guys are ready, if you want to show them, Hannah, where the place in the Torah is.
Et Adonai HaMavorach,
Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Hamotzi etem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem mo'adei Adonai asher tikra'u otam mikra'ei kodesh Elohim mo'adai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. I'm going to invite the grandparents to sit down now. You can't see their faces, but they're smiling from ear to ear. For the second Aliyah, we are going to invite up the parents and brother, Yamdu, Shmuel Chava bat Shimon ben Yamin v'Golda Rachel, v'Mikael ben Ruben v'Pala, v'Yona Teva ben Michael v'Shmua Ela Laliyah Hasheni. Well, we officially dropped the mic. Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha uvayom hashevi'i Shabbat Shabbaton mikra kodesh kol melacha lo ta'asu Shabbat l'Adonai b'chol moshvoteihem ele mo'adei Adonai mikra'ei kodesh asher tikra'u otam b'mo'adam בחודש הראשון ו14 לחודש בין הארבעים פסח לאדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. The third aliyah is reserved for Hannah herself. I'm going to invite Harvey Horowitz up to the bima. He is serving today as the gabbai, which is the person that assists Hannah as she's reading, if she needs help at any point. Harvey has also served as Hannah's tutor for her Torah and her Haftorah, as well as being her 6th and 7th grade teacher. So Harvey is going to call up Hannah officially by her Hebrew name, which is Chana Pesha, Bat Mikael V'Shmuel Ella Chava. Okay, and what we're going to do is after he calls him up, we're going to invite everyone to rise that's in the room. And if you're not in the room, I invite you to rise too, because this is a momentous occasion, so please rise. And we're going to put our fist out like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer her some strength, and it's called chizki. It has the guttural sound, the ch sound. So chizki. So try this out. Chizki. All right, on my signal, we're going to do that.
Tamod, 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 Habachura bat Mitzvah, Chana Pesha, bat Michael, Ushmuel Chava, Maftira.
Chizki. So Hannah, if you want to do the blessing before.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah. ובחמישה עשר יום לחודש הזה הקמצות לאדוני שבעת ימים מצות תאכלו. ביום הראשון מקרא קודש יהיה לכם כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו. והקרבתם אישה לאדוני שבעת ימים ביום השביעי מקרא קודש כל מלאכת עבודה lo ta'asu. And
then we do the blessing after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So Hannah, maybe we'll invite up Sharon and Mike again to help. Why don't we close our Torah here, and we'll put the cover on top of it. One of the challenges of the pandemic is the family is kind of in control of our Torah as we maintain our spacing here. And it's also one of the joys because they really get to interact with the Torah. And Hannah will be taking her yad, and she's going to be moving to the other mic at this point. Everyone else can be seated, as Hannah is now going to be reading from the Haftorah. And Harvey, where is the Haftorah found?
Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 15.
So it's Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 15. For those of you out with us today, there might be books underneath that you can find. So you might be able to have the reading, or again, you can just listen. All right, Hannah, whenever you're ready, she'll have the blessing before and after as well.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hane'emorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. והכהנים הלוויים בני צדוק אשר שמרו את משמרת מקדשי ביצעות בני ישראל מעלי המה יקרבו אלי לשרתני ועמדו לפני להקריב לי חלב ודם נאום אדוני אלוהים המה יבואו אל מקדשי והמה יקרבו אל שולחני לשרתני ושמרו את משמרתי. והיה בבואם אל שערי החצר הפנימית בגדי פשעים ילבשו ולא יעלה עליהם זמר בשערתם ושערי החצר הפנימית בביתה פערי פשעים יהיו על ראשם ומתנשאי פשעים יהיו על מותניהם לא יחקרו ביעזה ובצאתם אל החצר החיצונה אל החצר החיצונה אל העם יפשטו את בגדיהם אשר המה משרתים בם והניחו אותם בלשכות הקודש ולבשו בגדים אחרים ולא יקדשו את העם בבגדיהם וראשם לא יגלחו ופרע לא ישלחו פסום ישמו את ראשיהם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל המאמן אומר ועושה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ביום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדיש השבת.
Amen. And Hannah, as you were saying that, I'm not sure if you heard, I heard a little crinkling in the background. We have a little tradition that's popular in most Jewish communities in the United States, which is showering the bar mitzvah with sweetness. They begin their journey in sweetness with a little bit of honey. We want it to be sweet, but we also want the end of it. And apparently Joanne got the wonderful candy that my daughter said are called gushers, which I had never heard of before, but apparently they have something soft inside of them, like a little gel, I guess, that the kids really like. So Hannah, we always tell you, you're not allowed to throw it back at your family, but you are allowed to, use, move. That is permitted. And Jonah, who's sitting over there, just remember, in less than 2 years, you're going to be up there, and there's probably going to be a lot more people in the room, so maybe go easy on your sister, right? All right, so on Cantor is going to sing Simon Tov Mazel Tov, and then we'll be ready.
Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov.
All right, we're ready.
Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Simon Tov, Yeheladu, 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 Umecha Yisrael, Yeheladu, Yeheladu, Umecha Yisrael, Yeheladu, Yeheladu, Umecha Yisrael, Yeheladu, Yeheladu, Umecha Yisrael.
Well, I think they did a pretty good job. Everyone did a great job. Those are quite heavy ones, Julia.
You know what,
Actually,
Rabbi? They're gushing with pride.
they are gushing. It's I didn't know what she meant. We walked in the building last night, and my daughter said, "There's gushers here." I didn't know what she's talking about, but I thought that they were hopefully soft candy. That was the key thing. And thank you to the kids for helping out. We got Jonah and Hayden, and Hayden's helping. Wonderful. Great job. You can clean up our room anytime. Okay, so Hannah's done the majority of what she needs to do. We're almost there, actually, from her standpoint. Right now, she's going to be singing It's a Tree of Life to symbolically put our Torah away. And then we're going to hear some words of wisdom from her. It's a Tree of Life, by the way, can be found
374.
on 374. 374.
It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it. All of its supporters are happy. It's a tree of life for those who hold fast to it. All of its supporters are happy. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it. All of its supporters are happy. It's a tree of life for those who hold fast to it. All of its supporters are happy. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom.
So in other days, we would have put our Torah back in the ark. So we can imagine the Torah is away off in its right place right now. But now I think we need to learn a little bit about what our Torah and Haftorah portions are about. And Hannah is going to share those words of wisdom. During this time, Hannah, if you want to pull down your mask, that's it.
Shabbat shalom. My Torah portion, and more, is mighty about priests and holidays. That is not what I am talking about today. What I am talking about today is a line from my Torah portion that states, "What was done shall be done in return. Fracture for fracture, eye for an eye, tooth to tooth." Basically, what someone does to you, you should do it back. Even though that is what is in the Torah, does that mean it is the right thing to do? In theory, an eye for an eye makes sense. It makes things equal. It is fair. But does that mean it is always the right thing to do? In my mind, not so much. In some situations, an eye for an eye doesn't apply. Take, for example, the story of Valentino Dixon, a man who lives in Buffalo, New York, and was falsely charged with murder and was in prison for 27 years. Think of all that happens to someone in 27 years. He had to spend all that time in prison for something he didn't do. How does an eye for an eye apply to this situation? How would you make something fair to someone who wrongfully spent 27 years in prison? Fairness sounds easy. An eye for an eye, all sides have the same amount of damage. So who would go to prison for the wrong done to Valentino Dixon? And would that bring the desired result? Would that create justice? Fairness can be easy, but justice is more complicated. In an eye for an eye, what does hurting others really solve? Do you really want to hurt others when you know that it doesn't feel good? So, with fairness, even though it would make sense for both sides to be equal, is it really the right thing to do? When Valentino Dixon got out of jail, he started a foundation that contributes to helping kids not to make choices that can send them to prison. It also helps people who are wrongfully convicted. Rather than hurting or sending the people who put him in jail to prison, he helped his community. That is what Valentino did to positively impact his community. My Bat Mitzvah project is focused on public art and supporting the Albright Knox Public Art Initiative. Art is important to both Valentino and me. Albright Knox's support of public art is especially important because it helps make art available to all people. It helps make my community a better place. In my life, I like to use alternatives to an eye for an eye. When my brother and I get in a fight, before it gets out of hand, we have a family meeting. My parents sit us down to share our sides of the story, and we find the core of the problem. We talk about what we could do to keep the problem from reoccurring, and we make a compromise so everyone is happy. So, even though we do fight, we also communicate to find the solution to our problem. This is one example of what you could do instead of using an eye for an eye. Thank you to all of my friends and family across the country for watching me become a bat mitzvah. I'd also like to thank my mom for encouraging me to keep going when bat mitzvah prep was feeling hard. My mom always helped me when a prayer was difficult or incorrectly pronounced a word. I'd like to thank my dad for standing by me with every decision I wanted to make, whether it was choosing the day of the bat mitzvah or the invitation. He wanted this day to be about me and my choices. I'd like to thank my brother for being my cheerleader. After every prayer, I led a junior congregation, and every time I practiced my speech, he congratulated me and said I was doing great. I'd like to thank Mr. Horace for teaching me Hebrew, as well as my Torah and Haftorah portion. He is patient and kind, and I have learned so much this Hebrew school year. I'd like to thank Cantor Frank for pushing me to learn my prayers and believing in me. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Rabbi Alex for always offering advice and wisdom for all things. He helped me understand more that gave me ideas and inspiration to write about. Thank you to everyone who helped me through the process to get me to this day. Let me end by saying, even though my Torah portion says we should use an eye for an eye, I suggest that sometimes use a different approach.
Broadway hands here. That's our way of clapping in synagogue. And I'm going to invite up Sharon and Mike in whatever order you choose to address him.
Hannah Pesha, look at what you just accomplished. From a girl of 12 who did not know how to read Hebrew to a 13-year-old woman who read from the Torah with ease. The pride and dedication to everything that comes before you can truly be seen today. Since you were an infant, you have been observing Shabbat with Saba and Savta. I am grateful for all of the Friday night Shabbat meals, followed by Saturday mornings in synagogue with them, for helping shape your Jewish identity. The torch passed to our family when I returned from Israel with my Momentum group, and now it's our family who bakes challah and doesn't let a Friday night pass without candlelighting and Kaddish. Over the years, you have developed a strong sense of self. You are eagerly open to guidance, but in the end, you choose your own course. An example of this comes through when you had a school art project in the beginning of the year. You had to research any artist from the Albright Knox. You were more stressed than I'd ever seen you because you had just started a new school. You had a ton of other work to do and not a lot of time to do it. I told you, just choose an artist with easily found information like Picasso or Georgia O'Keeffe. But you insisted you would not do that. You kept to your core values and beliefs. You picked a lesser-known artist whose sculptures you had interacted with in our community, despite the fact that there was not a lot of information about him. You delivered a meticulously creative showcase of Akash Nehalani's work, which was informative, professional, and off the beaten path. I was so very proud of you for sticking with your unique vision. Again and again, you show me how wise and mature you are. Your loving nature and generosity are also apparent to anyone who is lucky enough to know you. Jonah is a frequent recipient of your generosity and has a box full of your homemade origami creations to show it. You are best friends and have spent your lives creating forts and Lego cities together, and now you're playing games on your individual phones while you're sitting next to each other on the couch. You are also a kind, caring friend. You love your cousins with all of your heart, especially Emmy Rose, who you could gab with all day long if you could. The four of us had this whole year to be with each other nonstop, and selfishly, I'm so grateful for that. The phrase, "I'm on it," was frequently a motto of yours this year. Always ready to lend a hand, and often while concurrently creating a decadent recipe to try out. I will always cherish this year of remote learning, despite all the hardships and stressors. Eating lunch together, extra snuggles at night and in the morning, family dinners, and random daytime hugs, what a gift. Thank you for choosing us as your parents, Hannah Pesha. I'll try not to dance or sing too loudly in public when you are with me, but I hope that you join me more often than not. You add so much joy to life, and I love you so much.
Hannah Pesha. So, growing up, I watched David Letterman, and David Letterman had a shtick, his top 10 lists. You'd hear a different one every night. This is my top 10 list of things I say to you, which apparently is out of order. Okay. Number 10 of the top 10 things I say to you, you changed my world. It's true. You were our first child, you were my first child, and you changed my perception on so many things in so many ways. It's been incredible, and thank you. Number 9, I miss my little baby. I used to hold your foot right in between there, and now you got this, Sasquatch foot. Comparatively, it used to be. Anyway, I absolutely love my big girl, but I miss my little baby. Number 8, delicious. You're a chef supreme, and you'd cook something awesome every day if you could, and I love it because it's delicious. Thank you. Number 7 of the top 10 things I say to you, master barber. During the pandemic, with so many things closed, Hannah has become my hairstylist. She does a great job, I think. She insisted that I pay her what I paid my old hairstylist. And to Hannah's credit, she insists that $18 of it go to a different charity every time. Number 6, Goofy McGillicuddy. It's a nickname you earned several years ago, but something that you've never lost, and I'm grateful for that. Number 5 of the top 10 things I say to you, you mean more to this family than you realize, and it's true. You make so many contributions in so many ways, and we're so appreciative of that. Thank you. Number 4, you're the adult in this house. Quite frequently, you find that you're taking the mature and the responsible approach, and I appreciate that, despite what others might be suggesting in the moment. So thank you. Number 3 of the top 10 things I say to you, what a good big sister. What a good big sister. From the moment you met your little brother Jonah, you've been sweet and generous and caring and loving, and it's been just a blessing to watch. Number 2. Actually, for 2, we have 2 things. I'm gonna sneak them in there. You make me proud, and you make me lucky. You make me proud consistently and in so many ways, and you make me lucky because I get to have you as my daughter, which makes me the luckiest man alive, I think. Number 1 of the top 10 things I say to you, I love you more than you know. It's true.
I think we're all ready for some tissues now. They are underneath here, by the way. Hannah, how is it possible that you're a bat mitzvah? Wasn't it just yesterday that we were in Betty's music together and you were all banging on drums? It's amazing to see your growth and maturity over this time and how you've really come into your own. There's 2 things that you've always had, a big smile and a big heart. And I think those are really part of who you are as a person, but also who you are as a Jew. You have a very proud legacy in your family, and you really had a chance to experience what Judaism means. And I know calling you up here as a bat mitzvah, which is my honor, that you really understand what it means, what's been handed down to you. Sometimes we come up to the Torah, and adults, we just take it for granted, the tradition we've been handed. But you get to experience it with your extended family, and you understand it, and I know that you'll pass it on and continue with that it's a place of joy for you. And it's a real pleasure to see you go through this. By the way, my wife, Shira, sends hugs, but I told her we're not allowed to do that in the pandemic. She said, you could do an air hug. Your Torah portion is Emor, which is a great portion for you, because Emor means to speak. And I feel like today we really heard your voice. It's a powerful voice. So, I think I did something. Okay, let's see. It's in there completely.
Is it good?
Yeah. I think I was just hitting my talus here.
Okay.
So your Torah portion means emor, which is, again, just to speak. And sometimes speaking is hard. Moses knew that. But it's important. And I think your voice, however you communicate it, with your smile or your heart or whatever way, you should just feel bold and brave and willing to take that chance. I hope after today that you feel that you really accomplish something, that you can do anything you put your mind to, and that you continue to do amazing things to make this world a better, sweeter, and more artistic place. So we are going to offer you a blessing, which is called the priestly blessing. You probably even received this when you were a little baby. And it's my favorite blessing, and Cantor and I will offer it to you right now. What I'll say is normally it's kind of you put your hands on them. So I'm going to have Sharon and Mike and Jonah, why don't you put your hands on Hannah, and we'll recite this blessing. Everyone else, you can rise, and we'll kind of give her the smock, the priestly sign here, if you're able. May God bless you and watch over you. May God shine God's face upon you and grant you comfort. May God lift God's face to you and grant you and all of us peace. And I'm going to ask you to walk up over here to this table, and there's a pen there. I want you to sign your name on your bat mitzvah certificate, a reminder of this day. You see at the bottom, this is the nicest signature she'll ever have. Maybe not, she's artistic. So yeah, just put your John Hancock, as we say. Wonderful. That is your commitment, also a reminder of your Hebrew name and of this day today. You also have in front of you in that gold wrapping there, that is, why don't you hold that up so everyone can see? That is a Kaddish cup that you can use on your Friday nights when you celebrate as a family. And we also have below the certificate there is a certificate to go to Israel on a reform trip. That's $250 off, but I'd just like to remind everyone that there is a free birthright trip that as soon as you turn 18 you can go on until you're 33, so make sure to take advantage of that. That's even better than the certificate that's there. So wonderful. And I think that we've completed everything as we move towards the end of the service. So you can go sit down with or go join your family as we turn to Aleinu on page 586. Actually, remain standing for this as we move to the conclusion of the service.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא שנו כגויי הארצות, ולא סמדו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וקורבננו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ היום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד.
seated. I think I'm going to come use your mic.
Sure. We haven't used that since our outdoor services. There might be a little gremlin in it now.
Apparently, I think it's just the mask is acting up. Okay, so we're going to turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish, and that is on page 598. There's many members of Hannah's family that we're thinking about and remembering, particularly Russell Joel Nisengard and Paula Helene Nisengard. We know that they were here with us in spirit and are smiling down, and so proud of Hannah on this occasion. So again, the Mourner's Kaddish is on page 598. All those whose custom it is to rise, please rise. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash, shemei rabbah, v'yalma, v'yivra, chirete, v'yamlik malchute, v'chayechon, v'yamechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalah, v'bizman, kariv, v'yimru, amen. Yehesh mei rabbah, v'varach, li'olam, omei, omaya. Yitbarak, v'yishtabak, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitrumam, v'yitnaseh. Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemeda Kudasha, Brechu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata, Damiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehesh shlamar rabba min shemaya. L'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'yimrumav. Huya says shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. May the one who creates harmony and high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world. And we say, Amen. You may be seated. I'm going to bring Hannah back to her mic to lead us in Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach. B'terem kol yitzir nivra Adon Olam, L'yet nasav v'hetzol kol, Azai malach shemo nikra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach. B'terem kol yitzir nivra, L'yet nasav v'hetzol kol, Azai malach shemo nikra Adon Olam, V'yacharei kilot hakol, Levado milok nora Adon Olam, V'hu haya, V'hu hove, V'hu yeh v'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir nivra, L'yet nasa, V'hetzol kol, Azai malach shemo nikra Adon Olam, V'hu echad, V'yein sheni, L'ham shelo l'chachvira Adon Olam, B'li reshit, B'li tachlit, V'lo ha'oz v'ham yisra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir nivra, L'yet nasa, V'hetzol kol, Azai malach shemo nikra Adon Olam, V'hu eli, V'chai goali, V'tzor havli v'yitzara Adon Olam, V'hu nisi, Umanosli, Minat kosi b'yom ekra Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir nivra, L'yet nasa, V'hetzol kol, Azai malach shemo nikra Adon Olam, V'yado, Uv'kid ruchi, B'yeti shan b'ya'ira Adon Olam, V'yim ruchi, Geviyati, Al-nai li v'lo ira Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir nivra, L'yet nasa, V'hetzol kol, Azai malach shemo nikra Adon Olam.
Beautiful. Okay. We're going to invite Jonah over here, who's been cheerleading during this, to take the Kaddish cup. And Hannah, why don't you go get the challah and bring it over to you. So Jonah, just go in front of the mic there as he'll recite the Kaddish.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. All right, Hannah, go bring over the challah. And that challah is for your family afterwards, if you'd like. So just go in front of the mic. Look at that cooperation. It's wonderful. A magician.
Baruch Atanai Elohim Eloheinu Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen. B'tei Avon, this concludes our service today. Mazel tov to Hannah and her whole family. As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. And if you're in cyberspace, write Mazel tov there. The family will get it later. Shabbat shalom, everyone.